now. Okay,
Hello.
we are now live. Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello,
Welcome,
everyone.
hello, everyone. Hello to our friends and family from Kuala Lumpur, from Cambridge, from London, and the rest of the world from Hong Kong as well. So today we have our special guest, Michael Tan, and also Dr. Shin and also Melissa as our panels for this webinar called Why Is It Stressful Studying at Cambridge? So first of all, let me introduce Michael. Michael is an associate professor in the field of low dimensional nanoelectronics device. He is the head of computer nanoelectronics research group, School of Electrical Engineering from UTM. He has obtained his Bachelor of Engineering and was appointed as a tutor in the same university since September 2003. Okay, so next I'll be introducing Dr. Shin. He holds a PhD degree in physics from University of Cambridge, and also we have Melissa in the house. Melissa was elected as the public governor in 2019, and she is also the executive director at UK Education Garden. So I'm sure that everyone is excited to begin our webinar. So let me have Michael to say some words.
Oh, all right.
So
Okay, thank you.
can I ask you the first question? Like, why did you apply to University of Cambridge?
All right. So, as a lecturer in UTM, first I started as a tutor, then I did my master over there. So, to become a full lecturer, we need to have a PhD degree. So, we are required to apply lah anywhere. So, I can apply to any top university in the world. So, at the time, I was thinking to go to Japan, and then there is also some. Then it happens that my master supervisor, all right, that I did in UTM, he invited his PhD supervisor, all right, into UTM. And at the time, I met him and asked him, can I do PhD with him? Then he said, okay. So that supervisor told me that I'm his grandson because my master supervisor is his first PhD student, and he's like his grandson lah because I did the PhD under him. So that is how I applied to University of Cambridge.
Was it difficult to apply to Cambridge?
I guess for postgraduate, it is much easier. I think if you apply for bachelor, it is quite competitive. And for PhD, what they need is that you should have a supervisor. And then the second thing, you have a financial support. You have to make sure that your English is up to the standard. You have to take IELTS and then funding. And okay, so you have all these things, then you can do postgraduate. I don't think it's that difficult. I think anybody can apply for postgraduate.
Oh, really? I always have the impression.
Mike, you make it sound so easy to apply to Cambridge. Like
Oh.
anyone also can apply to that. I think you need to set the perspective a bit straight, Mike.
I think obviously the difficult part is to get the financial support. I think that's if you can get, because I was supported by the Malaysian ministry, so it was quite easy. And then they contacted Cambridge before, so everything was quite easy. But if you are independent, I guess the one thing that you have to make sure that you got the funding lah, because they want to see for the conditional letter. You must fulfill that. You must show that you got some backups lah, some financial support.
Thanks for sharing with us on that. I always have the impression that everyone in Cambridge is smart. Is that true? Is everyone in Cambridge is smart? What is the peer pressure like there?
All right. In my experience, right, I have this college mate. we used to live in the hostel, and he just stayed just opposite me. He's a Chinese student from China. And then I was having some problem understanding mathematics because I have to take some subject during my PhD. And he was very smart, I can say that. And he did his doctoral on astrophysics and cosmology. All right, so about planets or all those things, he used mathematics to do that. And his supervisor, all right, his supervisor is a famous supervisor, is a doctoral student of Danny Sayama, who also supervised the famous Stephen Hawking. So at the time, he published so many papers, and he won the best doctoral thesis in astrophysics from the Royal Astronomical Society lah. So I can say that I did meet some intelligent and smart students over there lah.
I assume Dr. Shin is
Mike did
one
not
of
use
them.
me as a. I'm so sad Mike did not use me as an example, but it's okay lah.
Never mind, I added your name in his statement.
I just want to echo Mike's point, right? Just to add on to that, I do agree that applying to PhD is relatively easier compared to the undergrads there. You have to go through a much more rigorous process if you are applying for a bachelor degree. But that having said, I think, like I said, I think you need to put Mike's comment into perspective as well, right? It's not like funding is very important, obviously. But for postgraduate, it's very important to get the blessings of the professor that you want to work with, right? So you have to first identify which area that you want to work with, which professor that you want to work with, and you have to have certain research background that he's, that he's also interested in, and he feels like, yeah, you are a student that he wants to have for the next 3 years. So when it comes to postgraduate, a lot of it, like Mike's case and like my case, it's about convincing the professor that you'll be working with. And if you say yes, usually the university would not say no to your application, right? But the difficult bit is getting to know the professor. And so like in Mike's case, he has already been working with him. So, he knows how good Mike is during the master's already. So it's a very nice transition over to PhD. But in my case, where I didn't do my master's at Cambridge, so I actually have to reach out to my professor back then, my supervisor, and actually talk to him like, I'm interested in your work, and this is my idea of how what is research project I can do with, and I need to convince him to take me under his tutelage lah. So for me, that's the case. Yeah. So, and I just want to add on to that, to Mike's point.
Thank you, Dr. Shin, for sharing. So I have few more questions here. I have a lot of questions because when I was younger, I didn't have the chance. I didn't have the fun and didn't have the brain to study abroad. That is why I'm so excited to have all this conversation with people like you. So like what about what do you guys normally do for fun in Cambridge? Do you guys have times to play apart from studying? How many hours do you guys spend on studying? Anyone would like to do this?
All right, I like to start first. For me, that what we do for play is that we usually go for punting. I have a very good friends, especially a very good punter named T. He bring us around, and the good thing is that when a lot of friends or family visits Cambridge, then we can bring them punting. And the good thing is that we can buy strawberry, put in the pan, and then buy KFC and then start punting around. So that is normally what we do. And how many hours do we spend on studying? That is basically based on our PhD work. If you have to read journal papers and find out things about that, I think that is the tough part lah. So we do spend a good considerable amount of hours studying and also getting to know how to use software, many of the things there. And in addition to punting, we also enjoy going to cinemas, right? So I guess in Cambridge, we do watch a lot of movies, especially for students. There is discount. I think it was on Tuesday, and we did watch many Harry Potter's movie. We catch up. So what we do is that we cycle at night. We cycle to the cinema because over there I don't have car, so we cycle like 2 or 3 km. Then, in addition to movies, we also organize many cookout sessions because we miss Malaysian dishes. And the best time to have these dishes is during Hari Raya celebration, where we have a lot of Malaysian fans, where we can satisfy our craving for nasi lemak, satay, ayam masak merah, a lot of good food. How about you, Xing Liang?
Okay. So since Mike have talked about the great times in Cambridge, let me always be the devil and talk about the stressful bit, lah, right? Like again, because the topic today is about is it stressful studying in Cambridge, right? And it's funny because when I post this webinar on my Facebook, right, like all our Cambridge alumni. So basically, Mike and I, we knew each other during back in the Cambridge days. So a lot of our friends basically posted on the comments, right, on my Facebook post, saying that no, it's not stressful, like not at all. End of story. A lot of their comments are like that. It's all rainbow. It's easy peasy. But you have to understand that a lot of times these are half. We say this half jokingly, right? And you have to put in the fact that from my point of view, the biggest thing that I see when I go to Cambridge is you get to work with a lot of like-minded people, right? A lot of people who put in many hours of work, many hours into studies, but they felt like this is okay. This is not a lot of work. I used to do worse, that kind of thing. And I met a lot of students who felt like they were top students from respective countries, saying come to Cambridge and felt like how come I thought I was the smartest person. I used to be the smartest person in the classroom, but now that I come here, everyone else is smarter than me. So I just want to put in perspective that apart from all these great stuff that we did, and I certainly do enjoy them, I mean, there is a certain amount of peer pressure, right? But to Mike's point, there is peer pressure, but at least in Mike's and my case, it didn't really box it down, right? That we have very good companionship. We have ways to release our stress. Like Mike has mentioned, punting as well. So for those who doesn't know what punting is, it's basically getting down into a boat and using the wooden stick and push the boat along the river Cam. So this is one of our favorite pastime in Cambridge, right? It's a very scenic city, so it's always a very nice place to release stress. You just go out to just get out of your classroom and you'll be awed by the scene and you feel so much relaxed after that. So in summary, I just want to say that it's fun. There's a lot of great things that we used to do together. But there is. I would be lying if I say there wasn't any peer pressure at all. I don't know. How about you, Melissa? What do you think?
For me, I think the pressure is high because most of my friends, my classmates are from the top universities from different parts of the world. But what we managed to do is we spend quite a lot of time in the library. There are lots of libraries. You couldn't imagine. There are over 100 libraries in a small city like Cambridge. And then in the evening, we always go out for dinner, formal dinner, or going out for fun. And we also use bicycle a lot within the city, which is a fantastic exercise. It was quite stressful when your bike is being stolen. I must say that.
Yes.
Did you have your bike?
Getting your bicycle stolen at Cambridge is one of the most stressful moments because I think bicycle is
that's true.
the main mode of transportation, and everyone owns a bicycle. So like bicycle is basically your car in Kuala Lumpur. If you're staying in Kuala Lumpur, it's your car, but in Cambridge, the bicycle is more precious than anything else.
Okay, apparently we have a question from the floor. There's a question, how do we approach the prospective supervisors? Would Dr. Shin or Michael be happy to answer this question? How do we approach? Yeah, sure.
All right. In my case, it was kind of straightforward because my master supervisor knew my PhD supervisor. But I guess for every student, what you can do is that you can email them. I mean, first of all, you can read about their biography, everything. You can email them. That's how you can approach the supervisor, because you have to let them know you and what you can do, your capability, your CV. Have you published any paper before? And then what do you think that you can contribute to the team? I guess that is for my opinion.
I totally agree with Mike as well. And I think maybe Melissa can add on from her point of view, because Mike and I, we are both from the physical sciences, so it might be slightly different. But I would agree with Mike as well. To approach your prospective professors, right? There are two ways. One is you have already been working with him in the past, so you have good rapport, or either that, or your professor knows him, right? So you through networking, or in the third case where you completely and I think a lot of people have actually that kind of objective, right? I want to get into University of Cambridge, but I have no idea if what they're doing and what they want. Usually I think that is typically not the greatest strategy, because I think the best strategy is that you already know what kind of research area and direction you want to go with. And when you're clear about your research direction and what kind of research area you want to go in, you usually know who are the top people in your research area, and you go to those people. And these people may be in other universities. It's not necessarily in Cambridge. But let's say in a situation where you're hell-bent on going to University of Cambridge, and they have a pretty good computer science engineering team. Then what you need to do is you really need to research this professor, right? What are the papers that he has published before? And from there, you have to understand that from the professor's point of view, what is he going to do? Where is he going with his research, right? Where do you think is the next big thing, right? And more likely than not, you will know that answer, but you have an idea, you don't know the answer, the professor will know the answer. But that would be a starting point for your email conversation. You can send an email, and if you could travel down to, obviously not now, but if you could travel down to University of Cambridge, and a lot of these professors, if they have time, right, they are more than willing to sit down with you to have a 15 minutes chat or 30 minutes chat where you can share your view and he can share his view, right? And then you have a few conversations back and forth, and from there on, you can you will have a better gauge of your capabilities, and you have a better gauge of whether he's a professor that suits you. Now, the only thing that is very important to take note of is the superstar professors. A lot of people want to go for superstars professor, like for example, Stephen Hawking, right? But you have to bear in mind that superstar professors typically do not have much time for you. So if you want to go for those superstar professors, that means that you expect to see him only once every quarter, or maybe once, sometimes in the case superstar like Stephen Hawking, maybe once every 6 months or even a year, right? You can imagine so many people want to talk to him, right? So are you that kind of person, right? Don't always go for the superstar. Sometimes those lecturers that have just recently promoted, they are better because they are getting their new students, and they're willing to spend more time to you. So if those kind of students who want to spend more time with the supervisor, maybe this kind of professor or this kind of supervisor is more suitable for you. You have to find the right fit for you, lah. They don't just go in blindly.
So I still remember that the first course that we attended was how to manage your supervisor. Not how to manage your PhD, but how to manage your supervisor. Yes.
I think, Mike, you brought up a very good point. Like Cambridge is very good because in the first month or first few months, I think they made it compulsory for all of us to attend the course, right? To understand the different modes of supervisor. And I can give you a very good example, right? And I think everyone knows this lah. Hopefully this professor doesn't tune into this live stream, but back in those days, everyone knows Professor Ferrari. He's a professor right now. Professor Ferrari, he's really famous. He's very smart. He works maybe 18 hours or even more a day. He comes into the lab 3 a.m. in the morning, but he's a very ferocious character. And so you have to be able to take up to that, right? So different professors, you have to find a professor that he's not only going to be your professor, but also be your friend, So you need to also find your ally. There's going to be an ally for the next 3 years. That is very, very important.
That's very helpful. So the question has
Melissa,
been answered.
I think Melissa wanted to. Do you want to add on something on it, Melissa?
I just want to say, totally agree with Dr. Shin that you need to find a good professor who can understand you, because doing your postgraduate degree is going to be challenging. And if your professor doesn't support you that much, let's say if you go for a very famous professor, you're less likely to see him possibly every 6 months. and he might not be able to support you that much. So having a good professor who understands your work academically and also be your friend is important. And sometimes if you're doing your postgraduate degree in an overseas country, if you could ask your current professor to recommend you who would be the best, that would be a good way to approach it as well. What do you think, Michael and Dr. Shin?
Yeah, I agree.
I do agree. Yeah. Totally agree.
Okay, so I guess we have answered the question from the floor. Sir meme a lot. We have David in the house as well. He mentioned that stressful when you could not finish your pint.
I know where David is coming from. For people like me who can't drink.
Okay. I have a few more questions if you guys don't mind. I have like the next question that I have is, are the classes difficult to follow? Like, especially you guys are from Malaysia, right? I mean, even the English that they use, the accent and everything is different. How do you guys cope with that? Michael
I can go first because I think I
Yeah,
tend to
sure.
I tend to talk too long, so I go first. I try to be short. I think the accent and the English is okay for me, and I think for most people who are able to go through all the, so like Cambridge, they have a much higher requirement for IELTS and TOEFL English language score. So I think for most of us who manage to go through all the exams and that if you've reached there, I mean, it's not too much of a problem. Are the classes easy to follow? It really depends. So some of the classes, it depends on the professor, right? If he's a superstar, right, the likelihood that a superstar professor who's also very good at teaching, these two combinations doesn't come together easily, right? So usually, if he's a really smart professor who has published a lot of paper, I personally felt like typically they don't spend too much time teaching. And what happens is that I've seen classes where the lecturer just come in and say that this is a reading list, like 12 books, finish it, and then we'll come back, we talk again. And because Cambridge has a very, very short semester, it's only 8 weeks, right? One semester is only 8 weeks. And you can see the way we design it is 8 weeks is very short, and it crams all the knowledge points, all the key points into that 8 weeks. And then we break for 2-3 weeks where you're supposed to study by yourself, followed by a lot of supervision, which is a one-to-one tutoring. So to put this all in context, I do feel that it's not difficult to follow. But again, the environment is there. There's the natural stress or the pressure will naturally kicks in because of all this situation, shorter term, good professors having less time to really go through the lessons with you. But then you have a lot of supervision, which means you have a tutor that comes one-on-one with you to make sure that you have answered all your questions. So all these things coming together, I think it's for the better. I think it's for the better because they will make sure that you really do understand your work. But the downside of that is I'm not going to lie, it's going to be quite stressful, especially if you're aiming to be one of the top students as well and score well in exams. Yeah. Mike,
Yes,
what do you think?
yes, Shin Yang. So in one of the course that I took, right, the lecture I find it was a bit short and less text, and it required additional reading lah. Definitely is not hand holding or spoon speeding type of lecturer lah. So in other words, that it is less teacher oriented and more to student oriented. If you need to take responsibility for your own learning, and the good thing is like what Shin Yang said, that you have tutor, right, one-to-one supervision. So you can refer to the tutor if you don't understand anything. So usually tutors are actually PhD students. And one of the good things is that you can download past year questions and also answer from the university archive, and you study the answer, and you maybe say that, okay, oh, this lecturer like to repeat every 3 years. He said, probably next year he will come up with this question. Oh, you can you can do that as well if you want to. So
That one is for engineering only. Only engineering got all the past year papers in the electronic system. Yeah, not in the physics department though.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
So then that's why you have to rely on tutor as well, lah. But I can
Yeah.
say that the classes that I follow was kind of difficult for me, lah.
Yeah. Totally agree that you have to put in a lot of additional effort. And I think you brought up a very good point, Mike. I think the biggest difference between UK and a lot of Malaysia education is that in UK, I felt like they felt like professors are not there really to teach. It's really to impart the experience, right? Because whatever they need to teach is in a textbook already. But these people at Cambridge, they are at the forefront of research. If you want to know something that's beyond the textbook, right? They want to impart experience, impart like why is this textbook written this way, and which textbook is better. These professors are the one who will be able to give you that kind of additional insights. So not so much about teaching you how to solve questions and not so much, right? But teaching you how to look beyond and look further. So in that way, it's always a double-edged sword, right? Like it's good, but at the same time, it's a bit stressful as well because there's no spoon feeding, as Mike put it in. A lot of it, hard work, you have to put it in yourself. Joanne, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry about that. I have a last question before we end up this session. So, how is University of Cambridge different from other universities?
Maybe we let Melissa answer first, because Mike and I we are hogging up all the
I like University of Cambridge because it's totally different from other universities. It has a collegiate system. So just Cambridge alone, we have 31 colleges, and each student belongs to different colleges. Which colleges did you go to, Michael? You were at Queen's, didn't you? And
yeah, I went to Queen's.
Dr. Shin is at Hughes Hall. Yeah, and each has different culture. It's so good that you could meet up different people from different students from different colleges, so that you get invited to their formal dinner, which is a part I enjoy most in Cambridge. Shall I pass on to Michael to share your experience?
Oh, sure, Melissa. So what is different, it is that what I like it was the punting, and there's a lot of bridges. Even the name of Cambridge stand for the bridge over the Kanta River, and then they change it to the Cam River. So a lot of bridges. That is one thing that I find it kind of different. And also when I try to get around, like Xin Yang say that we normally use bike. And when I am most excited was when I am able to travel to Tesco, because if I ride a bike to Tesco, I cannot buy a lot of things. So I always expect that, if Shin Yang, are you driving there? If you're driving there, can I tumpang you? Take his Mercedes, and we went and shopping. That was the most excited part lah. So the difference between Cambridge is that it is actually a small town. Like you say, there's town, and then the colleges are in the town, right? Unlike in other university like UTM is like inside, everything's inside. You have to go to a guard, but this is kind of different. It's open type. So that is my answer for that. So how about you, Shin?
I need to defend myself first. You mentioned I drove a Mercedes, but the price of that Mercedes in UK that time, a second-hand one, is the price of a Canary and Kelisa in Malaysia lah. Just to put that in context, cars are pretty cheap in the UK. I think a lot of already been said by Melissa and Mike. I want to say something else that is linked to today's topic, right? Which is it stressful study at Cambridge? I think what we haven't talked about is the application process. And the application process to Cambridge is very different, right? Because this also answers Joanne's question there. What is special and what is different? I think the application process into Cambridge is very different, right? You have to submit your application forms very, very early. in compared to other universities, which is in during my time used to be December. I think that's the same for Mike as well. But I recently checked. Now it needs to be in October, right? And you have to prepare your personal statement. You have to get your reference, and you have to remember that you're up against a lot of other very, very good candidates. So your personal statements cannot be just any personal statements. You have to go through it over and over and over again. So basically, the preparation starts way before the forms are available in September. Basically, you have to start preparing in July and June, right? If your English language level is not there yet, you have to start practicing your English level and take your IELTS exam. If you didn't reach the band required, you have to retake it. You can start preparing a personal statement by then, because you don't have to wait for the application forms to come in. But you have to start contacting your professors or your referrers, right, to say that, when the application form comes in, I hope you can help me to write a referral letter to University of Cambridge. Is that okay? Don't leave it. What a lot of people have failed to do is they only leave it to the last minute, right? Application forms is available today. They say that it's only today, let's wait for another 2 weeks. By then, it's already quite late already, because most people who apply to Cambridge, they prepare months before the forms itself is available. So in that sense, the application process is quite stressful as well compared to the rest of the university. And I think that is how University of Cambridge or all those top universities, that's how they do their first cut filtering, right? If you are not up for it, if you feel this is the Malay word is leceh, if you feel this is too much trouble, then Cambridge felt that you're probably not cut for us as well, because people who is willing to go the extra mile to come to our university, those are the people that we should consider first, right? So in that sense, I would say is that right? But all the fun times, all those things, we have lots of stories between Mike and I and Melissa. We got lots of story. I don't know if we have time or not for today, but if we don't have time, next time in one of the next webinar, I can share about how my house got raided by the police but that is also a very funny story. But I don't know today we have time for that or not. Yep, back to you, Joanne.
Hi. So there are 2 questions from the floor. So shall we take the 2 questions? So the first question is the process of applying approach via email for PhD in the US the same as UK? Example, MIT versus Cambridge. By the way, Dr. Michael Prashant's here.
Oh, it's my student, my master student.
Oh, nice.
So, Shinya, you know how to answer that for USA? Because I'm not so familiar. Is it?
Okay, I can answer. I can try to answer that because I applied to MIT and didn't get it, so I went to the other Cambridge. No, but I think to put Prasant's question into context, right? The application process obviously is similar, right? There's a form you have to fill up. You have to take the English test. For the UK, for the US university, I think you even have to take the GMAT, if I'm not mistaken. But bear with me, especially for the US system, this was 10 years ago when I applied, right? So things might have changed. But generally, the process is the same, right? You have to take the English test. You have to get a referral letter. You have to write your personal statement, and you have to and what I mentioned about talking to the professors is actually not part of the application process, believe it or not, right? It is not necessary to have an email because that will not be seen in the official application process. But US and UK is quite similar in the sense that if you have already managed to convince a professor that he should take you as a student, then you could actually tell him, and he would actually track your application ID and say that, you know what, this student, I've talked to him, I want this student. So that will make your application success rate much higher. Now, if you don't get any connection with any, you don't try to reach out to any professors and you just submit your application like that, you can succeed in getting a place as well. But it's much more tougher because you imagine you have to convince that professor with just that personal statement, which is also your research statement, right? Which is typically about 1 page long, all right? Together with all your papers, unless you have a very, very, very strong publication, right? And that sometimes not only about strong publication, but your publication is relevant to the professor's research as well. Then he will take you up, right? So you have to be careful with that. It's not that easy, right? Because even like you say, you're doing nanoelectronics, we can do a lot of things concerning nanoelectronics. I might would know that a bit better. But let's say if in my area of expertise, which is nanomagnetism, you say, yeah, I'm interested in nanomagnetism, but what are you doing? Are you doing spintronics? And even if you're doing spintronics, what type of spin devices are you doing? Right? There's 1,001 things you could do with this, and it's, as you can imagine, PhD is a very, very narrow field, a very focused and narrow field. So is this the area? The professor might think that, you know what, I don't think spintronics is the future, right? At least for my research group, I don't want to do spintronics. Maybe other research group is still doing spintronics, but he doesn't want to do it. So even you have very good publication for spintronics, you submit to him, he will say that, no, I don't want you. But if you can send an email and start a conversation with him and understand that a bit better, what happens is that you can answer, so Professor X, you don't want to do spintronics. Why? Because you think there's this problem. Okay, what if I can solve this problem with you? Right? Maybe this will be an interesting research area. Then this is how you get the connection, and then how you can convince him, and then you can tweak your research statements a little bit, right, when you write that personal statement. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, Prasan, I hope that Shin Liang answered your question. He gave a very good and thorough answer to everyone. So like what Shin Liang said, it is true that when you apply for that field, like nanoelectronics, there are many things that you can do with it, and some supervisors are focusing on the different field of nanoelectronics, subfield of that. If they don't find it relevant today, then they might not want to do it. And sometimes it's not what you want, is what he wants or what she wants, what the supervisor wants. You have to make sure that both can tally, and you are able to find a reasonable title. In addition to that, they also advertise, you can actually look at the research group as well. What do they advertise? Are they looking for a PhD student or not? Sometimes they put it there, I'm looking for this PhD student, they pay how much, all those things. That is also, if you have, you can apply directly to that, or you can even contact UK Education Garden to help you. All right.
All right. I know it's not so early right now, but why don't we just take one last question from the floor? There's Zaur here. Zaur has a question. Is there any big difference among the College of Cambridge in terms of difficulty and teaching methods of the lecturers? I think we covered a little bit just now in our earlier questions, right? But maybe anyone would like to answer this question? This is specifically asking about difficulty and teaching method of the lecturers instead.
All right. Just to let you know, Zawo is my master student as well.
Okay.
So when he might want to try his to apply to Cambridge, and I think what he wants to ask is what college should he pick. And I did tell him that some colleges they do not like it when you put it as a second or third choice. Sometimes they don't even. In your application form as well, they can say that, okay, you can list your top 3 choices if what you want. And my answer is that you can study first what colleges are you going to apply to. You can read about them. You can Google in Wikipedia. There's a lot of historical or facts that you can have. And sometimes it is good to pick the choices, which college that you want. But sometimes you may not get the choice that you want. Right? And if that college, for example, like in St. Catherine College, if you are from Malaysia, if you apply to St. Catherine College, they do give scholarship to Malaysian who get into college. So you have to look all these things, in fact, before you apply. Like, you come from which country, do they apply, do they give you scholarship if you get into the colleges? So you can put it as your choice in the colleges. Relatively speaking, that there are famous colleges in Cambridge. There are also not so popular colleges among the students.
I'll let Melissa answer this question. It's okay.
Yeah, there are always ups and downs when you apply to the top university like Cambridge. And what I would suggest is try to talk to one of, for example, one of us or one of your friends who has gone to Cambridge and finished it successfully. That will give you lots of insights. How about you, Shinan?
Yeah, I totally agree with that as well. I just felt like Zao's question was like he was asking, is there any difference in teaching, or was it something to do with teaching? I was just looking at it in terms of difficulty and teaching methods of the lecturers. But I think this is, I just want to point out that colleges for undergraduates, it's about teaching, and so. Yeah, so between colleges, there's different levels of teaching, right? But most of the teaching is actually done on a departmental level. And the differences between colleges is more of what Melissa and Mike has already spoken. So I don't think you have to worry too much about the teaching styles of each colleges. More of the social aspect and the scholarship aspect that Mike has mentioned earlier on the colleges. Yeah. So maybe, Joanne, we can end this by asking maybe the panel to have a quick, one last statement on whether they felt overall, was it stressful to study at Cambridge, the stressful bit and also the fun bit of studying at Cambridge. Maybe we can ask Mike, do you want to comment on that one as a concluding remarks? Hey, you're on mute.
So for me, I think it is sometimes stressful and sometimes not stressful lah. So it depending on the term or where we are in the stages of education lah. So as a PhD student for the first year, you may get stressed because you are probationary. You have to pass the first year assessment. You have to take subject. You have to pass the exam. You have to present your proposal. And you're going to get evaluated by internal examiner. And when you reach that stage, you'll find that it's quite stressful because you want to pass, right? If you don't pass, then you might not proceed. And then after that, obviously, the other part was seeing your friend leaving one by one. You say, oh, they already graduated. When is going to be my turn? And then your funding is running out. You have no more financial support. Then you get stressful. You say that I have to finish on time. And all those things are taken into consideration. So like I say, it's just like a up and down journey. Sometimes it's stress, sometimes it's not stress. That is my answer.
Thanks.
Thanks for sharing. So what about yourself, Shin? Apart from, do you have something else to share before we end this about your overall journey? You're happy, the upside and downside about studying in Cambridge?
I think it's definitely a great experience having the opportunity to study at University of Cambridge. Right, we got lots of fantastic experience, life experience studying there. But to say that it's without stress, it's also to lie to everyone here, right? As Mike said, that there's a lot of pressure on you to perform. There is peer pressure, as I've mentioned earlier as well, because for me, the most stressful bit is the peer pressure. The peer pressure at one point had a pretty negative effect on me, because at a certain point, sometimes you feel like you're the lousiest person around and nothing I do here is correct. But once in a while, I always joke that when we do have the opportunity to go to international conference, go outside and see the outside world, then you realize that, hey, you know what we're doing, it's really not that bad. Actually, I'm doing quite a decent job. So for me, the biggest stressful bit at Cambridge is the peer pressure. But again, it's a double-edged sword, because why do I say that? Because you get to meet people like Mike and a lot of our other friends that was also mentioned, T, David, and Irina. She also dropped by to say hi earlier. We are like-minded. when we approach things, we're very determined, we're very dedicated, we will go the extra mile. So we have a similar outlook into life and into how we want to get things done, right? Very determined. So there are similarities as well. So they're both pro and cons lah. You just have to think about if this is for you or not, right?
Thank you for sharing. So I think that's about it for the webinar for tonight. So if anyone here has any questions or comments, feel free to contact us. I've shared the contact, our WhatsApp, our email, and also our website here. So that's all for tonight. We thank Michael so much for being the guest, and thank you, Dr. Shin, for spending your time here. I know everyone is busy, and please take care and stay safe to every panel here as well as our audiences here tonight.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Thank you,
Thank
Melissa.
you.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.